Hello everyone, and welcome to the National Young Writers Festival late night reading Easy Beats. This is the event where I get to live out my fantasies and pretend that I'm hosting some kind of 2 a.m. niche jazz radio station, except instead of jazz I've got some wonderful writers for you here. So I will just introduce myself. I'm Isabel Marmion. I'm one of the co-directors here at NYWF. And I am here on Ghana country. It is 12:30 where I am. I feel like it's a little bit later for some of you and a little bit earlier for some others. And we're going to get quite cozy, quite intimate tonight, maybe share some hopes, share some fears. I don't know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes out. I'd just like to start by saying that the National Young Writers Festival is assisted by the Australian Government through the Australia Council, its arts funding and advisory body, the New South Wales Government through Create New South Wales, and copyright agency Cultural Fund. We're joined by 4 phenomenal writers tonight, and I'm just going to read their biographies to you to get started, and then we'll launch in. We'll see what happens. I hope you've got a little mug of tea. I've got mine, something nice and soothing for late at night. So let's go. The first writer that we have here is Alicia Herman. Alicia is a proud parent, daughter of regional Australia, writer, theatre maker, creative producer, and community organiser. She makes performances, installations, experiences, presentations, poetries, essay, digital exchanges, and the small moments of connection in public places. Once upon a time, Alicia was a disconnected and very angry high school dropout and teenage parent who thought the arts was a waste of time and money. Alicia writes about vulnerability, community, hope, grief, and forgiveness. She's a long-time fantasy nerd and would love to write for video games. Tea drinker, appropriate, big dreamer, and thinker of confusing thoughts. Second tonight, we've got Chloe Allison Escott, who is an interdisciplinary artist based in Hobart with a particular focus on music, comedy, writing, and performance. She's best known as a lyricist and singer, both in post-punk duo The Native Cats and her own piano-based solo work, and as a comedy writer specialising in never finishing anything. Her current ambition is to direct more music videos and give eloquently aloof press conferences at airport like David Bowie and Lou Reed did in the 70s. Chloe, I think that's maybe my new life aim. I highly approve of that. Third tonight on our bill, we've got Jess Martin. Jess, the poet, critic, and multidisciplinary artist with an interest in experimental theatre, dance, and performance. Recently, their work has been exploring improvised poetry within performance contexts. Jess frequently writes poetry in response to artwork and is informed by personal experience as an autistic non-binary artist. Having grown up regionally, their work evokes themes of memory, isolation, and landscape. As a reviewer, Jess's work has appeared in the Adelaide Review, First Magazine, and Express Media Buzzcuts, among others. They are the current writer in residence at the Mill Studios in Adelaide. And finally, closing out our quartet, we have Sarah Fagan. Sarah is a white dyke living and working on stolen Kulin country. They work in mental health and are mental themselves. In their writing, they are interested in madness, medicine, lesbianism, and anything else they can get their grubby paws on. Sarah is also known as Stonehenge, a plastic, fantastic, gender-fucking cowboy rider of a drag king. Stonehenge can be seen performing at nights like Venus and New Kings at the Fox. In 2019, they also co-produced their first drag show, Magic Dykes XXL, a camp exploration of masculine archetypes. That's who we've got tonight. So we're going to start off with Alicia.
Hello! I usually live and work on the lands of the River Murray and Mallee people in the Riverland, but I am actually coming to you tonight, as you can probably tell, from a car parked on a highway in a small town, and I actually have no idea where I am. So, yeah, that's where we're starting from. My name's Alicia, and as I said just before, I usually live in the Riverland in Glossop in regional South Australia, where I write poems and songs and blogs and plays and memoir and short stories, and I'm currently tackling the second draft of a young adult novel. And tonight, over the next little bit, I'm just going to share a couple of little pieces that have been written this year, and they are all in various stages of development. Yeah, we'll see. My first piece I'm going to share is actually a piece of writing that is also, I guess, a statement about who I am and what I do and why I do it. So this year I've been working with Fleur Kilpatrick as a really fabulous outside eye and a mentor, thanks to the Erin Thomas Playwright Fund through Playwriting Australia. And we've been talking a lot about how we, I guess, name our practice and what matters to us and how we want to work and who we want to work with and how we think about our writing as a workplace and how we sort of name some of those things. So the first little piece that I'm going to read to you is a little kind of manifesto in progress that is me attempting to articulate what I'm about. I am balancing my laptop on literally on my lap in the car, so if it is a bit, I hope you don't get too seasick if the laptop's moving around. But yeah, anyway, so this is a manifesto in progress written September 2020. My work is art and my art is work, and both are my life and myself and the gaps between. But neither my art or my work is the sum of me or everything that I choose to be. My practice is relational. My dreams are big and confusing. My heart is bleeding and I am unashamed of that fact. I am a daughter of regional Australia and my experience of place threads its way through everything I do. I was born on the lands of River Murray and Mallee peoples and I make my home here now as an adult. I am the product of complex and fractured and forgotten and remembered histories. I stand on the shoulders of giants and survivors, of lovers and of criminals, of bad men and good men, of strong women and lost women, of people who broke down boundaries and binaries, and of people who embraced them, of the mundane and the perfectly perfect ordinary. My DNA threaded with stories I will never know, and some I am searching hard to uncover. I live, love, work, and dream on Aboriginal land, always was, always will be. I believe in connection, in courage, in slowness. I believe in joy, in breathing in and breathing out, in reaching out and reaching in being messy and imperfect and authentic, in taking time to give things the space to grow, in leaving things as good or better than I find them, that the little things are often the biggest things of all. I make stories, theatre and poetry and games and exhibitions and installations and gatherings and experiments and experiences and the small moments that happen between people and between places and between ideas. I crave autonomy and ambitious visions, but most of all I crave action because intentions matter, but they are nothing without practice. They are nothing without the doing. I make mistakes, we all do. I'm learning. Next to you, in front of you, behind you, with you. Learning is lifelong and never, ever static. Learning is the critical foundation of everything I am and everything I strive to do. Success, to me, is standing side by side with you, building a better world, building a future for children that are not ours and that we will never meet. And to achieve that success, I am willing to sleep in late and even sometimes to get up very, very early. I am willing to resist the single story. I am willing to be difficult when I have to be and alone when I need to be. I am willing to be joy-filled and overflowing with gratitude. I am willing to lift you up. I am willing to get out of the way. I am willing to ask for help and to offer it. I am willing always and forever to learn and dream and strive and play the longest of the long games, which is not a game at all, but a life and a tiny planet that we share. The second little piece is a poem, and it's called Access is Not a Priority. And it was actually written, it was intended for a poetry slam last month that unfortunately I didn't get to share it because of some other circumstances. So yeah, this is the first time I will have shared it. So debut reading. Yeah, so it's called Access is Not a Priority. Hello, I was just wondering if you're going to live stream this event. Hi, is there any way to attend virtually? Will this be recorded and available afterwards? Just wondering if I could zoom in. Can I? Will you? Is there any way to? It's not just me. 4 walls and an abdomen on fire. An acre of dust and trees and a highway they've forgotten, brain fog on top of shaky hands and leaking eyes, an unsteady ferry and someone else's money, skin kept on the edges, and time paused and rewound, paused and rewound, paused and rewound, paused and rewound, paused and rewound. You're just finally catching up. This screen has been our home for years, catching collaborations in the cracks, sending love hearts and insufficient gifts. I've been made of screen dreams and clocking up hours on Zoom, Google Hangouts, Discord, Slack, Facebook, Insta, Skype, and I've been there in every event listing asking, can I? Will you? Is there any way to? But face to face is better. Face to face is better. Face to face is better. So I just can't attend. And then 2020 slides into our hands. Sickness and wealth and a 100-year echo on a fresh new plate. And around me they're toppling like dominoes into one or the other. Zoom, Google Hangouts, Mattermost, FaceTime, Mighty Networks, rediscovering those conference calls. You're on mute! Everyone laughs, but I don't laugh, because I've been on mute for years asking, can I? Will you? Is there any way to? Face to face is better. Face to face is better. Face to face is better. Better than me, better than you, better than dreams made out of silicone screens, better than time twisting itself into knots and trying to pick up where we left off. I want to reach my hands through. I want to touch you, but I can't and I don't, and this is better than nothing. Better than goodbye, better than never saying hi. You're sick of it? Can I? Will you? Is there any way to? 10,000 hours to be an expert. I've had a rural postcode for more than 10,000 days. How much of an expert does that make me? Face to face is better. Face to face is better. Face to face is better, better, better. Face to face is better. For who? For you? Yeah. This next little piece is a fictional one. So the other two obviously weren't. This next little piece is fictional, and it was written as a performance piece for camera. And I'm not quite sure how it's going to translate with me sitting in the car, but we'll see how we go. And it was actually one of two pieces that was created for Act Now Theatre and State Theatre Company of South Australia's Decameron 2.0 project. The other piece was selected and produced as part of that project. You can see it in episode 4. But this little piece is now just sitting in my drawer for some other use down the track. So I thought it might be nice to give it a little life here. So this also does involve a prop. So we'll see how we go with me scrolling. Finally asleep. Don't judge me. Anyway, I'm allowed to have the whole packet. No one else in this house likes them. All mine. Oh, so good. I don't know what I was thinking, having another one. Did I trick myself? Or did the world trick me? This is number 4, so it's not like I didn't know. I mean, obviously none of us expected this year though, but even so, babies are hard work without a pandemic. I feel tired inside of my tired. Look at my eyes, like, really, look at them. You can see it in my eyeballs. And these bags, I could fit half the world in there. All of us. We're just spinning together from one tiny speck, trying to figure our shit out. I've kept the kids home from school with the baby. You know, I wasn't sure. And no one really knows. Or maybe they do, and they're just not telling us. How would any of us know? We wouldn't, right? Mick's on site for another 5 days. I'm not sure if he'll need to quarantine when he gets home, crossing state borders and everything. It's all changing so fast. I don't think he'll cope cooped up with us for 14 days. And what happens to his roster? I don't think I'll cope with him cooped up for 14 days. And really, who has he seen out on a mine? He's lower risk than we are. I had to take all the kids with me to Coles yesterday because we're too far out of town for deliveries. And I could just feel everyone looking and judging. I've really missed you this week, this month, this year. I wish you were here. This year especially, I wish you were here. I thought it would get easier after 5 years. It just keeps getting harder. I miss you, Mum, so much. Now I just have to get all the chocolate out of my mouth. This next little piece is a poem that was written for an anthology about Adelaide and is another autobiographical piece. So it does, it touches on my experience of moving out of home to live in Adelaide with my then boyfriend when I was 15. And then it circles back to the kind of the relationship I have with Adelaide now. I don't live there, but I spent a couple of years there just recently. So this piece is called The Map Is in My Phone Now, Adelaide by Memory. Into the heart of the beast to gorge on Hungry Jacks and McDonald's on payday, to linger in the mall near all the shops we couldn't afford to walk inside of. Shame, hanging in halos around our ankles and our wrists. We were just children, letting ourselves be kissed. Remember the first time? Others jumping the train, not us, trying to figure out why they do it. They did it, still trying. Smithfield disappears into Elizabeth, into Salisbury, into Parafood Gardens, into Dry Creek, into arriving in that hall still takes my breath away because I remember. Big city, too big for these hands, these eyes. Hindley Street, made of vomit and late night hell, made of don't tread alone, little girl, and later made of it's just another footpath between places. It's just another street full of faces. The gap between this was then and this is now. Brundle Mole, I was black jeans and I was bruises underneath. The city is where the suburbs come to breed. The city is where the dreamers are left to seed. The city is what the country kids thought would set them free. Time flips the table. Scatters mahjong tiles in my hair. I comb echoes in Flinders Street and tickle whispers in Victoria Square. Your open mouth laughing in the sun. My future making a different run. The choice between that was then and who I am now. It takes time, too much, to craft a line between point A and point B, catching at the pages, mapping a history, ours and mine. 15 disappears into 17, baby. Into 21, uni attempt 1. Into 26, the lawns of Government House. Into 29, baby number 2, and castle, calling on the hill. Turrets to cling to, words to ring, wrestle and remember. I keep on trying. I hunger for quiet places. Instead, Central Market, full of sounds that drown and choke the words, not made for corners full of bodies and skin and letting the life in. But I do love the noodles there, and the cheese. I slip my hand in his and swallow the sound for now. And to finish off, before I hand over to Chloe, I'm just going to read this tiny, tiny little one, which is a tiny little poem that I wrote for the Dirty 30 Daily Challenge in April this year. It doesn't have a name, but it's the challenge was to write a poem that used the format of a recipe. So, ingredients: 3 adults, 1 child, 1 cat, 1 dog, houseplants to taste, 1 acre of gum trees and brown dirt, 1 failed vegetable patch, a generous helping of optimism, 1 front veranda, big enough for hammock and rocking chair, 1 fireplace. Optional: bedtime stories, rocking chair and hammock, cobwebs, gaps and cracks for the wind to whistle through. Method: blend ingredients beneath a net of stars and the turning of the seasons. Settle in by the fireplace to read bedtime stories, while you wait for the houseplants to mature or to die. Add the rocking chair, and after testing, add the hammock too. Sprinkle entire house with pet hair and a light dusting of cobwebs, please. Learn to love the gaps in the cracks. They are your home. They are your life. They are you. Thank you, everybody. If you want to read or hear any more of my writing, you can find heaps and heaps of archived blogs at aliciaherman.wordpress. And I have a small little Patreon where I share some behind the scenes and more current stuff, which is Lily of the River, which is LYLYEE, which is also where you can find me on Twitter, Insta, all those places. Or just Google me, things will come up. Yeah, I enjoy the rest of National Young Writers Festival, and I'm super excited to hear the words from Chloe, Jess, and Sa. And so now it's time to hand over to Chloe.
Well, hello. I'm Chloe Allison Escott. I'm here in my room in Hobart. I live and work primarily on the Nipaluna country, and I'd like to acknowledge the Muwinina people as the traditional owners of the land. I'm primarily a musician. I have a solo album coming out in about 2 weeks called Stars Under Contract. You can get it at chloeallisonescott.bandcamp.com. But to a lot of people, I'm probably best known as an actor, and specifically for one role a couple of years ago, and I was fortunate enough to be able to play the role of the killer in the Channel 9 limited series Bite Club. Now, I haven't done a lot of talking about the show. It's just kind of something I preferred to keep private, but this is my last NYWF. I'm 35. I'm here at the end of my youth. And so now I'm finally going to answer 5 of the questions I'm most frequently asked about my time on the show. Number 1, how did you get the part? Well, I was on my lunch break at work in early 2017, and a bloke came up to me and said, "Excuse me, I'm a screenwriter, and I'm thinking of including a transgender character in my next project I'm working on. But I'm very conscious of the limitations of my understanding, and if I were to include this character, I would want to be sure that I would handle the issue with sensitivity and accuracy. Do you mind if I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Does changing your pronouns also change the shape of your fingerprints?" I said, "Yes, it does." He said, "Thank you very much." And a couple of weeks later, I was offered the part. Question 2, what is Bite Club? Bite Club was a Channel 9 limited series that ran for 8 episodes in 2018 about a serial killer who only kills shark attack victims, and the police racing against the clock to catch him. Or her? Yes, it's her. It's me. Pronouns she, her. Was this your first acting role? No. My first acting role was a small part in a Channel 7 drama pilot in 2016, starring Vince Colosimo and Guyton Grantley. I was one of the flatmates of Guyton Grantley's character. The idea was we lived in a trendy apartment in Brunswick, and the premise was that Guyton Grantley's estranged father, played by Vince Colosimo, shows up out of the blue to take him to Darwin so that they can reopen the paleo bakery that's been in their family for generations. The show was going to be called Born and Bred because their surname was Born and the bread from the bakery, but also Darwin was where they were born and bred, and also they're trying to make bread as in money by selling literal bread and kind of becoming reborn as people in the process. Anyway, the apartment set caught fire while we were filming the scene, and I was the only one there who knew where the fire extinguisher was, and they kept filming while I was putting it out, and afterwards the director decided to not even film the rest of the pilot and to simply rework the footage that we had as a community service announcement about fire safety, of which I was the star. Question 4. I didn't watch all the way to the end. Why did your character only kill shark attack survivors? That's actually what drew me to the role. I was a bit apprehensive at first because I initially thought I would just be playing some kind of psychopath. So it was a pleasant surprise to see that my character was revealed to be an experimental scientist who killed shark attack survivors in order to harvest their sharkal tryptamine, the shark fear chemical. The last question, what do you feel has been the long-term impact culturally of Bite Club and your role within it? Well, I feel it was a step forward in representation of trans murderers in fiction. It was heartening to see during the recent conversation about the blatant transphobia in J.K. Rowling's new novel, a lot of people saying these are issues that were handled much more sensitively in Chloe Alison Escott's performance in the Channel 9 limited series Bite Club as a serial killer who only kills shark attack survivors. My character killed for the purpose of scientific research, and while I was ultimately arrested and sent to hell in the final episode, I think it's very important that at the end of the episode we flash forward to a year later and see that my sharkal tryptamine research has been used to develop an exciting new kind of bath bomb. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me at the festival these past few years. It has been an honor and a privilege. I would now like to welcome our next reader, late night reader, Jess Martin. Thank you very much.
Sweet, now I'm unmuted. Hi, I'm here on Kaurna Country in Adelaide. I pay my respects to Kaurna elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the thousands of years of storytelling history in this place. Sovereignty was never ceded. This is my late night mixtape of short, weird poems. Festival of the Flat Pack Body. Festival of the untouched digital bodies, clean framed inside the DIY flat pack, streaming prime boogie in your backyard, direct from Canberra. New measures of choreography cover bland expenditures, get down to something familiar to keep the dream entertained and the kids out of school. What fun! A festival of the flat packed body, becoming smaller, running side screen, but don't go any further away, folks. I don't imagine the journey reversing because all of us are nowhere and you've never seen my house or delivered carefully a porch-lit rehearsal. Festival of the screen door body. Small talk, awkwardly resisting paranoia, saying thank you at a distance, being remiss with texting family, lacking background noise. Heard flat curves, a festival of the fold-out body. Video call backdrop catering all your favorite human furniture. Muted resolution dancing to the speech bubble filter, headlines repeating. Festival of the essential body. Festival of the homebound body. Festival of the flat pack bodies. That was maybe a heavy place to start. How about we get into some weird childhood vibes? Breaking in. I keep having this dream and a conscious imagining of breaking into my childhood homes, all the times as a child without keys, or needing to be unheard, or just alone as often as usual. And my new body now muddles at wire screens in the yellow paper, imagining knowing I can get in. But if I try, I should probably ask the people who live there now and film it so I don't need this 270-degree projection of all those times alone still repeating now, so you can see it as often as I do. Eating soap. have been going back to as many of the places that I didn't remember as I can remember now, gradually, that all the sloughed off pieces of my skin have risen up in clouded bathwater rings, and I have panned out the finest grade of lead settling in mangrove silt on the Piri River, discarded ballast bricks, brushed off fat silica grains, tweezed out salt white splinters. And all these places ringed with peninsular teeth, eating lipids, suspended in bathwater, breach. So I grew up regionally in Port Pirie, South Australia, which is a mining town. And this next poem references a couple of weird local mascots, I'd say, around there. So, just roll with it. Something's wrong. The skin isn't on tight enough. And all I can do to communicate is shake and wave like a mascot, Happy Healthy Harold or PB the Lead Smart Dinosaur. That's personification. Before you even realize there's an actor inside, you're hiding yourself under the car seat, hoping children can't find the lie, because you haven't yet. And as you wave to bed by Bacana Bilby, begin to question why. Your eyes are open and you have not learned to blink. Okay, this next poem is a bit of a can of worms. Well, it's called Can of Worms. So, two autistics walk into a bar. They don't relate, though one of them is my father. A can of worms walks into a bar, set it out to sea until they come up waving to all the patrons. A father and child walk into the wind along a beach. They're both autistic, but they better wave that away. Two peers look into a can of worms. They're buying white goods together. The can of worms is a front loader, but none of them are spilling out. Two household appliances walk into a bar. Their clothes are full of worms. They are father and child. They each order a can of worms and tap them together in cheers. Whew. That was maybe also quite heavy. I don't know. What do you need? People will keep asking you what you need, what your situation is, how you feel. There's always a sense of crisis around you, but perhaps it's time for everyone else to join in. You're in the chorus line, kicking. So let's assume everybody is kicking at the same things. The feel of their own shoes, the scrolling banner of contact points, hazard tape across all the seats, landing heavy, kicking feet. I recently realized I write a lot about baths and swimming and kicking as well, so I don't know, maybe I'll lean into it. This one is tidy things are only waiting. Tidy things are asking, waiting for a happening, for entropy, promising drama will come to everything that waits and is still waiting. Like rest is the growing potential for movement, like contentment is the growing momentum of distress within the body, like order is to be swallowed up and danced around your bedroom, like everybody belongs writhing on their kitchen counter, bathroom floor, like still baths are for drowning in, and landscapes are for demolished walls, and portraits are for news bulletins, and waiting, you're an object. You do not fit down the plug hole. This next poem is titled Directional. Something inside is always pointing towards you. Like we have a date with gravity and the curve of space together, always directionally dependent like a tether that extends and connects to the end of my last conversation with you. Permeable windows. This time, everything reaches past the skin. A meaningless barrier when I breathe everything in, live with the world halfway through me, sleep with the doors and windows open, and recall this skin when it was still on my body, when my home was the piece of space that curled around me, when the smoke was our home burning. I wasn't sure if I should read this next poem, but then somebody on Twitter said that every late night reading has to have a confession of petty crime. So this is The Plastic Crocodile. It doesn't let you talk because it can't hear you or talk back. I forget who gifted it to you, this plastic vessel of petty victory, an ugly ornamental floating crocodile head for the tiny pond in the front yard, outside my window. Plastic painted eye seeming crazed by its own stillness, its inanimation, floating inanely, the physical embodiment of a dad joke. But I do definitely know that as I left the house first thing one garbage day morning, it was all too easy to pluck that stupid grin from the water and send it to landfill. Okay, one last one called Threshold. I don't know what happens on the doorstep, the threshold, stepping off the bus or into the foyer, sliding between the leaves of a wooden double gate. It's not a space to move through, but the chance to balk or skitter or turn askew. Perhaps I should always be leaving one place and arriving in another. Perhaps I should stretch it out so that everything becomes a threshold between a place I can't feel anymore and a new place I can't see yet. Perhaps I don't need windows onto the weeds dancing in my future, but onto the concrete slab of the past, poorly observed, horrendously unknown in its rigidity. How do we know the past so poorly, miss the absoluteness of what is already determined? Why am I mining my future like it will pan out into being known? There's a bizarre sequence of writhing body that is following me, and I can't tell you where it was or what the world was around it. I didn't see what crumbled or rose from the earth. I didn't know the past, and will never know what parts of this worn cast are still inside, what mouths open in the dust, what landmarks I have held onto when I digest them all and leave nothing behind. Thank you so much. Up next is Sarah.
Hi, so I'm coming to you today from stolen Wurundjeri country. I just want to thank everyone who's spoken previously. All of that work was really beautiful, and I have a particular soft spot for poetry that uses images to do with worms, so I really enjoyed those last few poems. I'm going to read an excerpt from an essay called Grey Areas that was published in VoiceWorks recently. It has some reasonably gnarly descriptions of like gore and medical things, but a lot of it was also written around this time of night over a few months, so I thought it was kind of fitting for this reading. 1. Pick me, choose me, love me. I'm watching a couple impaled on a tree, gasping for life, the gurney hot with blood. The two stare at one another with hands clasped, knowing that only one of them is going to last the night. Covered in each other's blood, they are coming to terms with their fate as I take a handful of chips and switch tabs to update my best friend on the state of my rewatch. Season 3, Episode 2. She's gonna die. FML, it always makes me sad. Grey's Anatomy is a secret obsession in the pocket of a person, me, with many secret obsessions. It is an indulgence and an easy one. Is it funny and sweet and moving? Yes. Is it also ridiculous? Yes. The melodrama and magic of Grey's pulls me back each time I think I've given it up for good. But each time the further I get from Season 1, Episode 1, I start to tire and drift. Sometimes it's the first plane crash, other times the second. Boredom at times grips me, and others I am pulled by the allure of a show that peaked post-2010. Mostly, I become absorbed by a pressing concern and shelve the project of finishing a season for another few months. The first time I watch, however, it's pure magic. We crowd around a borrowed laptop and watch on a stream someone's brother found us. 15-year-old faces itch and school dresses pull awkwardly. George O'Malley kisses Izzy Stevens looking like a baby butch picking up their first femme. Mullet grown out to shaggy college dorm fringe, plaid tucked under shilling. We decide without words to rewind and watch again for the magic of making out in a gurney-fitting elevator. That night I imagined Derek's hand wrapping around me, his stubble grazing my forehead, how he would kiss me warmly, how hard his chest might be to lie on. I set my text notification to the sound of a pager, put my hands on my chest, and imagine and feel how it might be to lie your head on me. Growing up on Greys, I imagined that my life would be full of tragic and unexpected accidents. One of those, a skiing accident that ended in me impaled on a tree stump, or a bus ride to my formal becoming a mess of blood and taffeta, would be what finally did me in. I imagined a line of well-groomed medical staff rallying around me to patch me up and send me back into the world, knowing full well I might tumble back into their arms at any second, until the final time they zipped me up and sent me on my way with poetic words about my impact on the world. My future is not filled with drama and sudden life-changing traumas. Instead, I am done in slowly. A year ago, the headaches start slow and irritating, then a little more frequent than normal. Ache comes around my brow for the better part of 6 months, ebbing and flowing with heat, stress, sickness, and hormones. 2. Deny, deny, deny. I transitioned to watching as a solo sport. The dyke fashion of George O'Malley haunts me through my late teens. Through 5 awkward haircuts, I wait to see my true self emerge, and then, in picture-perfect symmetry, I buzz my hair in a number 4 all over. Even then, seeing my eyes sink back, nose covered in down from the clipper, I don't think I'd ever have the courage to save a stranger from a bus. The summer of 2019, our house smells like burnt rice and lavender from heat packs microwaved too long. This musk clings to everything. I wake feeling my back contract and go through the motions, trying to time the rotations correctly between rolling shoulders and turntable cycles. I drape my neck, crawl back into bed, and feel my love roll away from the heat of me. Call me McSteamy. The diagnosis I'm given is migraines, unspecified which kind, but they trust I can figure that out myself. A migraine comes in 4 stages: prodrome, aura, attack, postdrome. Sometimes I hop into this cycle and it whips me through in record speed. Other times I start at Izzy's cancer arc, and as I fall back into bed with yawns and shivers, waking up at the hospital merger before the postdrome has brought clarity, clean vision, relaxing shoulders. A snake eating its own tail. That's how the neurologist puts it. Shonda Rhimes' dialogue follows a pattern. 2. A character chooses a central thesis and uses this, repeated amongst other lines, to prove a point or show you something about their character. It could be anything, maybe something obvious, even obtuse, like, I'm not a perfect person. Or it might be something so left of field you're left wondering how on earth it could make you cry, like, my dad used to make us ham on Tuesdays. I think of these lines, these central theses to my life, as easily as slipping into water. I am comfortable in the realm of imagined melodrama. I craft extensive arguments with my therapist where I succinctly explain my trauma and disrupt his understanding of his profession in one fell swoop. I choreograph a dance of wit with my boss where I make her realize I am worthy of promotion. I declare my love in bold, unstoppable ways, all in the course of a trip on the 403 bus. The first medication they put me on makes my tongue itch, and the second makes me throw up. At bookshops, in Manning's kitchen, on the university lawns. The third takes away my speech but makes me feel like every word is on the tip of my finger. My mother calls me to listen to the silence on the other end of the line with concern. None of them stop the headaches. The soundtrack to these monologues is equally important. Through Greys, I develop a love of bad 80s acoustic pop covers and the early years of Tegan and Sarah's discography. Dancing to Closer at age 16 in the Palais Theatre, smack in the middle of my season 5 rewatch, I think of grabbing my friend's hand and declaring, I am not the kind of girl who kisses the person they have crushed on from afar, but I don't feel like myself right now. I feel better and stronger and more alive. And you are not the kind of girl who would ever look twice at me, but I am not myself, and I want to be the kind of girl who makes a move even if it is not in her nature. Instead, we dance so close I feel like my skin might burn straight off, and then ride home in separate, parent-driven cars. Now I listen on repeat to soundtrack playlists, counting backwards from 10 while waiting for a sedative to kick in and pull me away from the stinging in my forehead. Google Doctor tells me, migraine sufferers often explain the pain to vary in different types. Burning, stabbing, drilling, throbbing, ice pick in the head. Now that last one, that might make a good episode. If you want to hear the rest of that essay, it's in the latest, it's in VoiceWorks As If, issue 118. Thanks so much for your time this evening.
I don't know about all of you, but I feel very relaxed and ready for bed now. Thank you all. They were such beautiful, beautiful pieces. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for all coming to day 3 of NYWF 2020. We'll be back again tomorrow, so make sure you get some sleep before then. Good night.